What's going on, monkeys? It's Almighty. I'm back. Obviously, it took a little bit of a break. I'm not sure how relevant that is given that I've got like 90 subscribers. But I ended up moving across the entire planet. So, yes, I have not found the time to actually record or create any sort of content. But I'll definitely be documenting this little journey that I'm on outside of the card game. But we're in the card game, so let's just continue with it. This is the first in the series about just prep that I'm doing for a potentially upcoming regional that I would like to attend. Unfortunately, financially speaking, it might not be the smartest decision, but historically, I haven't really been the best with finances. So, who cares about that? So, moving on. What are we looking at? We got the regionals for, Fusion World coming up, right? Happening in Adelaide, in Australia. Hopefully, that doesn't, reveal where I'm at. And I would love to go, but obviously, if I go, like, what leader am I taking? Previously, I took Cell to the past couple regionals, did not perform that well. Maybe because I'm not as great of a player as I think I am. But yeah, it's besides the point. So we'll consider our options. We'll look at the list that I've built. We'll see how, these sort of play into things. And then ultimately, just what is the main deck that I'm going to be running, right? That's kind of the big problem, at least for me. As you can see, I know that they're not alt leaders, but these are kind of the three big leaders that I've played, right? I started with a Broly. I played Cell in a Frieza meta, and now Nameku is dropped. So which one do I take? Who do I like? Blah, blah, blah. Well, as we all know, Janemba dropped. Frieza's got some great support. It really is shaping up to be a yellow meta. So if it's a yellow meta, green is just going to have a bad day. So maybe I should just be playing yellow instead. But I am a green player. I will only be playing green until I feel like I want to play something else, to be fair. So I'm just assuming that if we're in a yellow meta, I can't really be playing anything that isn't good, essentially. And I've seen a couple of tier lists online, and I'm sure you already know where I'm going with this. But these are kind of the lists that I have cooked up. So for Broly, this is what we're looking at. I really don't like the shotgun variant of Broly. I think it's absolutely disgusting. It Okay, maybe that's a bit harsh. It doesn't feel right for the deck. Broly is not meant to be shotgunned. It's cool that some people figured out how to do that. I just don't like it. I think Broly is meant to feel like, imagine you strap someone down to a table and you have a belt sander running and you're feeding them to the belt sander. That's what this deck is supposed to feel like. Incredibly grindy, incredibly control-y, funny enough, and you just go so deep into the late game where you need to be in a position of absolute dominance. Plus, being a 25k leader really makes you feel stronger. With that said, this is kind of how the deck breaks down, and it's really not that crisp, right? 40% of the deck is bricks. And I guess that makes sense because you're playing green, right? In terms of like combo power, you've got a ton of 5Ks. 5Ks are nice, but they don't really solve everything for you, do they? The fact that there's only 11 10s, it ain't that good, right? It ain't that good, especially when you know that in this meta you need to be defensive, and not being able to be defensive doesn't feel great. So then you've got the next leader, my personal favorite, Cell. I absolutely love this leader. I think Cell is so much fun. Or at least, set 4 at least, it was very, very fun. And it's just being able to kind of play with your energy like that, like going up to 8, back down, and it's just a lot of fun and I love it. But Cell kind of runs into the same problem that Broly has, except you're only 20k on the backside, which means you're getting your teeth kicked in all the time. And in this format, when I was playing Cell, Like, you can see that I've played these Krillins. That's because I was thinking, oh, okay, if I have more blockers, I can kind of slow the game down. It'll be relevant. We're in a yellow meta where all they do is like, Janemba, I'm gonna rest your blocker. I'm gonna go and face, and I'm like, what was the point? What was the point? Like, maybe I should play the Yamcha who forces an attack. Play the Yamcha and then Senzu being like. See, it's too much. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. But this is kind of what I'm looking at so far for the Broly list and the Cell list, and they're very similar in that, you know, playing almost 40% bricks. This is a little tighter, I guess. There's a lot more 10Ks in here, which does help, but at the same time, Cell and Broly have the same problem that most green decks have, which is if you're playing a green deck, you want to ramp. If you're going to try to ramp, you might as well play droids. And I don't like droids. So, kind of itsy bitsy little problem. You know what I mean? But then we come down to Namek Goku. This was the leader that they gave us this set. And at first, it felt very, very bad. It felt like, oh, this leader just has to go face. You know, you got this promo card that restands. Just go face. This is actually, as weird as it sounds, this is a really big brain deck. It's actually big brained. Like, you need to be thinking when you play this deck. When I play Cell, I'm not thinking. All I'm going is ramp to 8, slam down cells, have a good time, you know? But this deck requires some thinking. Now, I do really like this deck. And there's nothing too exciting in here. I feel like all these lists are relatively similar. And something that's kind of common in all the decks that I've got is the one I-beam, the one warm greeting tech. That's because sometimes you just need that. Into the mirror especially, like, you have to be able to answer the Murrays, right? Into red, if you're playing against Jiren, you need the greeting. You have to be able to out some problematic bodies. But you can't depend on that. You're not really completely a control deck. You know? You are an aggro deck, but it's kind of flex. That's why you play the one Roshi, because you can charge those off for free if you want. Get them back when you need them. Because there's like the flow of this deck. There's one turn where you don't go face and you respond to the board, so that next turn you can go face and go for game. That's kind of the list that I've got. And here, look at that, 19 bricks only, right? About a 35% proportion of bricks. Ton of 5Ks, ton of 10Ks. This deck is very, very combo heavy. And in this current meta, it's what it is. And it actually is very, very good. I took it to 2 of my locals, and we've just been playing like casually, just for fun, across the week. And I've run it into so many different decks. Beerus is obviously terrible. Anything with critical is just bad for green. The mirror, I haven't really figured out how to play into that well enough yet, because the Murrays exist. Janemba goes very fast, but you can actually play right. Don't awaken them too early. You're good. Evil Boo, very rough matchup. Oh, I got this close to beating an Evil Boo player, and I'm not entirely sure how I lost that. I think maybe what I really needed to do was, there was one turn when I should have just answered the board instead of going face. That might have been smarter. And yes, hold your secret rare. Hold it in hand. Daima just survived Glorio is what it feels like. Except there was one Daima player where he kept setting up the Tamagotchi blocker, where it's just like can't be KO'd twice, and that was very annoying. So you have to go wide into that. Vegito, aggro it down. Gogeta I think is actually such a slept on leader, just because it turns on the energy marker. It's very good. But into Gogeta, you have to know when and which character to swing with, given that they can stun your characters when you're attacking as well. So you just got to know like that. Bardock actually goes really fast, especially with that double striker and that weird critical one as well. Like critical just hurts the deck. But I ran the Nameku into a lot of different decks. I tried Cell into some of them as well. You get absolutely washed, into the Nameku. Like Cell is just too slow into Nameku. You can't keep up. That means you're still suffering from the same problems that green has, which is just bad into yellow. You have a better matchup into red, just because you've got Cell Juniors and you can kind of loop stuff. And it's good. It's fun. Broly, I haven't tested Broly into the majority of this list. I just built Broly technically yesterday, and I've just been having some fun with it, like just playing around with it. And Broly is fun, right? There's something to be said for the first green deck that ever dropped, essentially. And it's fun, but I just don't think it's that good now. So I put a bunch of blockers into Cell, thinking, hey, more blockers should let me slow the game down. Should be good. Should let me stabilize. No good. Janemba just rests them. Red just negs them. Blue bot decks them. Like, you're not really getting much value out of all those blockers that you put in. Kind of bad. And yet, into Nameku, playing the Murray is actually so goated. Because it self-awakens, and it's a super cheap one-drop blocker. Like, yeah, it still suffers the same problems. But into Nameku, you're just getting cards in hand. So it's fine. And yeah, it's kind of the issue with running into what it feels like very fast meta, right? Zunimba exists, but if you survive that, you're okay. Glorio exists. If you survive that, you're okay. But there are other decks, especially Evil Boo, very, very consistent, very good. And I don't like that it's good. But the key thing for Nameku, Spaceship is probably the heart and soul of the deck. You need to draw as many cards as possible. Because the larger your hand size is, the better you feel. Which is also why it's rough into Evil Boo, because hand rip. But that's what it is. You need to know when to apply the pressure. Sometimes you don't swing and you leave your characters up. Same thing, but you need to be drawing. Always drawing. Right? Searching, cantripping, whatever. Draw. Be willing to stay at 2 life when your turn starts. So you don't need to counter out of everything. Sometimes you have to, because they're doing some crazy stuff. But start your turn at 2 and your turn at 3, kind of float there. Something that I've personally discovered is sometimes slamming down that secret rare, even if it's just going to get blocked, forces them to respect that the secret rare exists. That's better than trying to wait and wait and wait until you deal with the blocker, then to drop the secret rare, which is something that I had to discover all too late. But honestly, that's really what it is. There's a meta going on right now where it's just things are fast, right? Cheap blockers are an issue against you, and they're good when you play Nameku. Cheap blockers in Cell don't work, and I'm certain they're not going to work in Broly, so you got to definitely figure something out. But that's really what it is. Like I said, draw and pressure. Draw and pressure. And that's it. And Nameku is kind of happy. So, in summary, what is it? Nameku seems to be the best green deck so far, which honestly is kind of disappointing. Droids is a great green deck for the ramp strategy, except I feel like Nameku was built to beat Droids. It's just supposed to run faster than Droids, so you have to play a hyper defensive Droids to counter that, and that's just my opinion. Whatever. Yellow sucks because it's yellow. Jiren is absolutely atrocious. Red, pain. Just Jiren, yeah, it's bad, but red also is just Beerus with the critical hurts. Daima kind of sucks. Zamosu is actually oddly really good. It's just so defensive. But honestly, everything else is really, really fair. And I think I like Nameku because on the surface, it seems like go face, don't care, but it's not. Like, you have to know which cards to give up for the heal. You got to know where to charge. Like, for the most part, that's not something you have to think about with Cell or even with Broly. Like, you're relatively fine. It's like, oh yeah, I got multiple copies of a card, throw it out. But with this, it's like, oh, I want to keep the 1k counter, but you actually want to keep the 5k counter to be able to do something next turn, right? Because sometimes your opponent's going to let you start your turn at 3. And it's like, oh, I gave up the 5k counter, but the 5k was a self-awakener to hold a 1k counter, which only act like Chaozu, for example. Like, I've lost a game because I gave up the Vegeta to hold the Chaozu, only to have my turn start at 3 life, and I'm like, oh, if I had the Vegeta, I could have played it, activated my effects, right? The deck goes online. But honestly, everything else feels like a very, very fair matchup. You just have to know how to play into it. So it's nice. It's great. Well, the only other thing to do from here, honestly, is to just run it back. Like, gotta keep trying, testing, and refining. And this list that I have so far seems very, very healthy. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. We've got, a new week ahead of us. We've definitely got to be taking a lot more notes and writing in my little journal. Like, maybe I should just do some regular journaling instead of like, oh, matchup review. But either way, that's what we're looking at. And hopefully, if I get a job in this country, this country's not handing out jobs. It's crazy. If I get a job in this country, maybe I get some income coming in, I will probably end up going. So if anybody wants to donate to my charity, I would appreciate it. Thank you. In the meantime, yeah, good luck. Have fun.